was helping everyone they come across. Throughout this process, our guys been getting secret text messages with cryptic commands like "ready to rise." When Alex finally asked about these weird messages, Michael passed them off as wrong numbers or appointment reminders, in a way that shows he definitely got something behind. Beaver said we're having comm trouble. Must got lines from my first playthrough lasting something like an hour and 40 minutes, so it's not like you guys can invest a lot of time to see what you can talk to.
We're still alone. I can't stay here.
Shit, it's a new concept. That important Franco and Alex is fairly well known. Christ, look at this. How wanted to get the outbreak reports down yet. Let me call them in. Overall, like I said, it's a pretty short story. It's much in common, but I don't think it's time to. It seems that you guys have a story to tell and some ideas for a few puzzles, and well, that's exactly what we got. So I guess go into this thing understanding that an epic's some kind of 10-hour epic, but instead just after PS1, just before PS2. I don't know, maybe I'm being soft on this thing, but at this point I'm jumping in. I both still recognize that Dead Space world. So we couldn't see the boat as well. Yes, fix. I found the perfect. Also, if you want to check into motion comedy opportunity puzzle games, there's actually an option to unlock all the story scenes without ever playing past the
Carlos, respond.
So I guess that's
Yeah, what's up?
Imagine being a puzzle
We didn't make it.
The
train derailed.
Option
Derailed?
allows people never to see
Was anyone hurt?
Everybody's dead. Mihail, everybody.
No idea. Thank you. I'm combining this plasma cutter.
Nikolai left us to die.
Wait, what?
We spent a few minutes watching the pushing comedy.
Look.
Story
Get back!
Joe, what happened? Joe, come in!
First off, there's a mention of this quickly like sniper probably how fully up always
Right, let's do this. Carlos, you still there? Oh, you're gonna crap out on me.
By certain moves, but get caught by the searchlight at once. One of my favorites, the little guys that corrupt nodes and cause them to attack each other. The game does try to emphasize some kind of strategy by having you alternate how many of these things you send out based on what nodes are present, but I found the brute force method of a few dozen of the typical attack programs, followed by the ones that take over nodes, solve literally every problem I ran into. As you progress through the mission, level up numbers of these things you have access to. By the time you start your first playthrough, all of the challenge, but how many games is unsatisfying salvation there might be a real strategy and it might be easy as hell, but these puzzles ended up being my second favorite, which did this into my number one, partner strategy. Now, it's a little bit of context. Around about 4 years ago, I covered the top-down action RPG concept. At the time of that game, I sort of found something out about myself. As it turns out, I really like puzzles that have been lined up reflecting a stream of light. Something about these kind of puzzles just escaped me, and Ignition has got me covered on that front. To further compound just how hard it can be to line up two different colored light beams, you can combine the two for a third color and take certain obstacles off the board, and lift the keeper, of course. All of these elements combine to make some really awesome puzzles, but we didn't have one issue. sometimes you can spend a few minutes like for it to turn out well. Now you're in a situation where you don't have enough time to start implementing an act, but you just start to puzzle. So you have to sit there when you're thinking time runs out. I guess technically you could just put the game and reload and save, but I usually think it's just a ball. So that is kind of important, but other than that, it's just a pretty fun time. So at this point, you've basically seen everything that Space Invasion has to offer gameplay-wise, and while it's not a whole lot, you gotta keep in mind what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I'm glad I feel I think this is surprisingly enjoyable time. That being said, I don't get the feeling that a lot of people try to drop a find on a puzzle. But if it turns out you're doing this kind of stuff, or you want to jump into another really well done space side story, I'm going to give you
You've done me a big favor.
I'm glad I did.
That's got to be shit.
This is where I talk to you about games presentation. I think I'll be able to tell you much more. The puzzle areas look appropriate for the series, I guess, and the motion comic, while not having what I would call top-tier comic art, is still pretty okay looking. Some of the animation can be a bit too over the top, so
Hey, answer me. God damn it. Tyrell, do you copy?
What's going on?
Jill's been infected. I'm taking her to the hospital. Maybe Dr. Bard can save her.
All right, I'll meet you there.
You hang in there, Solid Cop. I got you.
Sorry, man. I had a party. So, it's basically like I said before, I did not expect to enjoy it. I told you this is how we did it. It's just nuts. Whatever you guys do, we have a $5
Fight it, Jill. I'm gonna get you the vaccine. You're gonna be okay. I promise.
Project of mine. So stay tuned for that, and until then, I'm hoping I see each and every one of you again, right here on the Dead Space Adventures. And the day has finally come. I guess there's no sense in it. Very often, I finally have to look at the black sheep of the Dead Space franchise. The game that I'm sure most of you are aware. There is just a little bit of it. But put that aside, I do plan on approaching this like I have with my previous perspectives, which means giving it an honest and fair look despite what everyone else thinks about it. Which actually should be pretty easy, as not only have I never played the game before today, but I really haven't watched a lot of movies covering it. So, for the very last time, it is my extreme pleasure to say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dead Space. Right, come join me. Make us whole again. After Dead Space 2's lackluster sales numbers, a third game in the series wasn't exactly a sure thing, but after about a year of speculation and leaks, we finally got confirmation that a new DS game was indeed being worked on. Now, it's no secret that EA took a much stronger position in some of the decision-making this time around, and I don't think I'll be ruffling any feathers when I say that President's Kevin fell all over the game. It sounded most of the time like something worse than it was imagined. And really trashy, one thing I will talk about it is people trust me, but I do think it's important to err on the side of objectivity here by making sure none of those negatives taint any of Dead Space 3's accomplishments. Don't get me wrong, I am no victim of the game, and more to the point, I cannot stand the practice of DLC altering the game's core gameplay style just to turn a quick profit. But honestly, I feel like that's all I ever hear about Dead Space 3. So from here on out, just keep in mind I'm going into this relatively blind and hoping for a good time. For all I know, that may be something I don't end up finding. That is the case. You guys will definitely hear all about it, but I'm not interested in shitting on a game just because it's popular. So, and with that in mind, let's see if this game's story is worthy of bookending such a well-loved franchise. And coming out of the gate swinging here. Phase 3, in my opinion, does a pretty good job at capping the franchise off, at least as far as the story goes. With the books, movies, comics, and spin-off games, we got a whole lot of DS in order. After playing and watching all these pieces of media for months on end, what I really wanted was a satisfying conclusion to the series. And this is definitely not coming from a God, I hope this series ends soon sort of place. I really did love these experiences I had, but a part of me also wanted to see the kind of climactic ending I knew these guys were totally capable of. So maybe we should jump right in because there's a lot to talk about here. Dead Space 3 starts off with a really good recap of the previous games and even the events taking place long before the first game, like the formation of the Unitologist Church. Although if you haven't played those previous games, the sequence is going to spoil a lot of really cool revelations that you might have otherwise discovered on your own. Although I guess if you're the type of person who would go into the third game of a franchise without playing the titles that came before, you aren't likely to care about that. The game proper starts with a sequence showing events that happened hundreds of years ago on a strange icy planet called Tal Volantis. Now these events will be further expanded on later in the game, but as far as an NVIDIA's Res introduction goes, it sets up a pretty awesome mystery. Who are these guys? Why are they looking for this codex? Why are there necromorphs all over it? And why is our character being rewarded for his hard work with a good-sized hole to the head? Glad to hear that. All that will be further contextualized later, but after the pre-intro, we're taken to a dingy apartment where Isaac Clarke lives alone. According to the game, him and Ellie from the last game had a nice little happy life together, but as the necromorph scourge spread and threatened all life in the galaxy, a little bit of a wedge was formed. It seems like Ellie is looking for a way to keep what she experienced on the Sprawl from happening everywhere else, but after what Isaac has been through being used by the Marker, Ergov, and the Unitologist, our guy understandably just wants to live out the rest of his life avoiding ever coming into contact with any of those things again. He seems to have taken a very defeated kind of, oh well, what are you going to do type of attitude, and this is what drove Ellie away. Now, I've seen a lot of people criticize this move, but I don't know, it sort of makes sense to me from a narrative standpoint. Here's a guy who's seen terrible things, been experimented on, has come close to death a countless amount of times, and held many full conversations with his ex-girlfriend, who just so happens to be long dead. Honestly, I might develop a little distaste for humanity myself in that situation. But Ellie is really young, and I find a way to save the human race.
Gotta be the lab in the back. Stay frosty, I'm on my way.
Fuck off.
Copy.
To his side.
I'll go on ahead.
Isaac's not so into that idea. So, since then, Isaac has been living the bachelor life until Erdgov busts in and not so subtly insinuates he might want to take part in a rescue mission. You know, the kind of subtlety that comes at the end of the gun. So it turns out Ellie joins some kind of military-civilian task force charged with finding the origin of the Markers with the hopes that this will end the apocalypse that humanity is facing. However, she went missing, and before that, according to her, Isaac's the only guy who can finish the fight. Surprise, surprise. On top of that, it seems like the Unitologist Church has reached its final form as some kind of religious insurgency type of thing, looking to speed up the whole end of all human life. And your sweet ass, they are very much aware of the guy who's been thwarting them this entire time, aka Isaac Clarke. I actually really like this setup. It feels very cinematic. The writers who set up a situation where most human beings in the galaxy which allows a small agency of religious zealots forming a armed force that's big enough for the government who's mostly killing these walking forces with ships for arms that doesn't exactly do much about them. This is a genuine situation in space series. On the way to get on the planet, Isaac runs into this absolute gem of a guy who's right at the aftermath stuff like Clarke is the one who stopped them in the past, and they are fully aware that he can destroy Markers thanks to his special position as one of the only people alive to have been in close proximity to one without completely losing it, returning to bones and bones and flesh. Speaking of which, these guys have been going around to major human colonies and destroying the structures that house these newly manufactured man-made Markers, so they're the ones who've been spreading these necromorph outbreaks, which would explain why the problem still persists after Clarke destroyed the Marker in Part 2. Which gives us this really nice start. There's the government initiative that is about as effective and well put together as any bureaucratic product, and then there's the who are looking to cap not only Isaac, but the rest of the world as well, so they can bring about their idea of utopia, one where every living being is Isaac needs to get ripped up because of what he did.
Welcome to the office of Dr. Nathaniel Barr.
He's really
Please
here to
state
save
your name.
Elliot. It's sort of like that. While throughout the series, he's sort of been the chosen one type of character, he's always seemed to resist that idea. It seems to me like the guy just wants to be left alone to draw scribbles of markers on his wall and not get needles shoved into his eye. I feel like that's an understandable decision to take, but instead he's heading to an ice fall of a planet with the intention of saving yet another ex-girlfriend. And after a little bit of regrouping, our team makes their way to Ellie's last known position, where they fall prey to the same sector to check Ellie's ship down. This leads the rescue team to finally catching up with her and her crew, but more important than that, it looks like our girl is moving on and slapping some into this storm now. So with the initial goal completed, now they shift gears into figuring out why the ship graveyard's out here, why there's active
Dr.
mines
Bard,
on
are
the
you in
why
there?
every single detail
I'm
seems
here
to
to
be
rescue
pushing
you.
in the direction
Open
of
the
how
door.
Atlantis. Once on the actual planet, the process that goes just about as smooth as find out that this planet is believed to be the marker home. As all the markers that have been found around the galaxy, and the sovereign colonies on the system separate and ripped up, and figure out exactly how this will be help mankind. If all the corpses were to give away, though, they did attack on their own. What we found shows that some kind of order was given that all people taking part in this expedition were to kill themselves to keep something a secret. Again, this was an business playboy. The side documents and audio logs scattered over the colony paint this familiar picture of people starting to lose their shit, but this time around the government seems to be trying to nip it in the bud by having everyone who even knows about the expedition be bullet.
Oh, Valerie. Just put that down. I'm sorry. They don't have to know. I'm so sorry. Not as sorry as I am, Commander.
So I obviously started wondering what the hell could have been so important that everyone here had to die. It wasn't that the marker caused necromorphs. I mean, we knew that already. So what the hell was going on down here? Well, that's a question that I sadly won't be able to answer without some massive spoilers for both the base game and the DLC that essentially acts as its true ending. So if you haven't played Dead Space 3 yet, either click on the link in the description or skip to the timestamp on screen. We will be going to the and I'd rather you guys piece this story together yourselves. Sound like a plan? Alright, let's do it.
You got me. Let the others go.
So through a combination of written files, audio logs, and story interactions, we find out that this was never the marker homeworld, but on the plus side, we weren't the only ones who were confused about this. Instead of an origin point, this place seems to be where an alien race trying to accomplish the same exact goal that we came here to do. And when I say we, I mean humankind. These aliens found the markers too, and they're looking to use them for their own ends, but just like us, meant an awful end thanks to the marker's true purpose, which seems to be to assimilate all life into these huge balloons made out of flesh. So we essentially came here assuming these aliens created the marker and thought that we could learn how to harness it for ourselves, but instead found out these guys knew just about as much as we did. And similarly, when they found out exactly what would happen when the marker was activated, they made some kind of fail-safe that completely iced the planet over, killing off their entire race with the hopes of saving all life in the galaxy. As a little side note here, absolutely not this, because it was such a great misdirection. I really just consider which was in the process of becoming one of the falls in living flesh. So our group gets a hold of this by Dan, the guy who looks like Elton John. He's also on the planet, and the codex would have let us destroy it, and also set it free to devour whenever it comes across. During our scuffle with the humans, we see Ellie die, which was actually very emotional, but I know I wasn't the only one who could tell they were going to do this now in the future. And getting up to this Soviet choice where we have to decide between letting the only person Isaac loves die, or doing all things to the person dead. And for some reason, the whole person is one of those things for us. Dead Space 3 was this really great self-sacrificing that struck a chord with me. Someone has to be present to activate this machine and actually plan it. It's got to be it's not like I wanted to die, but it's the personal mindset. Doing this to save everyone, especially Ellie. So that she realizes this is a leadership issue. It was this great hero moment, someone sacrificing himself to save everyone else. I thought it was very good. So it's wanting to say that this is all like after the credits, Bart hiding on Tydell. I don't know, we just kind of felt cheap. They did the same thing with the Dead Space 2, but we did other sequels. I think these guys were trying to work into the series, and it just seems really not handed that way. But you absolutely can't sell DLC for a game and you kill off the main character in the last entry, so we're left with this. Which brings us to the DLC campaign, Awakening, a series of events that take place just after the end of the game and serves as what we might call the real ending for the series. Awakening starts off confirming that both Clark and Carter figured out their ultimate lie. They can live them now. So the rest of the story is spent with them just trying to get off the planet. For a while, Clark is schemed to them getting off the planet is exactly what the Marker wants. But after a little bit, turns out that's all the news as far as the Markers are concerned. They already know exactly what they're doing, so they can jump and shoot. You see several of these were there. It seemed like while they were out, they were so I guess really fits the series if you ask me. I mean, Dead Space was always very, very bleak, and I think this is probably the one they could have taken while staying true to the general feel of the franchise. The only thing I would change would be for Clark to stay dead. I mean, this would have killed any sequel potential. It was the perfect bookend to all the shit the guys gave up. The thought of him finally bowing out the series was sad as hell, and it hit like a freight train. I'm doing all that after the credits, so it feel cheap. But I can't admit there is also a part of me that was happy to see him make it out okay. In fact, as I'm writing this, I realized that God outright or receiving their so when we show up, it can be devoured by an inside collection of dead bodies, so maybe we'll call this one in. And with that in mind, let's do the newcomers back.
I still don't understand how we survived.
So to summarize things, I feel like Dead Space 2 was pretty damn satisfying. Plus, at least had the foresight not to include too many sequel hooks. It would have made the game's conclusion feel more like a movie than a which goes for the game's main opinion, not the one concluded that you really get to this. It's a story that actually finishes the game's events with a price tag being left on. I have some well-established feelings on DLC. Well, I kind of hate it. In fact, ever since its advent, I have purchased two or three pieces of Dead Space. But first and foremost, while the events at the end of the game are really cool in a big addiction sort of way, they are no way required, at least in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, it's cool, but it's the kind of ending you probably already theorized in your head by the time you finish the credits in the next game. Plus, this DLC still costing $9.99. I got the entirety of Dead Space 3 for half of that dust screaming bullshit money games. So I guess play it if you got it in some kind of way, but don't go out of your way to provide a satisfying ending to the actual game, because if anything, it's just the same scenario that's stretched out into an hour. So if you're planning on playing Dead Space 3 specifically for the story, just know there's some cool stuff going on inside this DLC, but none of it is a must-play type of game. And on that note, I honestly do recommend you guys play this game for its story. It definitely does feel like a departure from the original titles, but in my opinion, this is about the only way they could have ended the series. By now, Dead Space MMO has always been advertising for a small role in the events of the larger plot, so the guys in escaping some personal situation as connected with the general events of the larger story. It's escaping. Well, in theory, all of those chickens come home to roost, and we finally get a few answers to some of the questions that I don't know about you, but were burning a hole in the back of my mind for a while. On top of this, we get what I would call a very movie-feeling plot, with Isaac and crew exploring a pool of environments that were really interesting in this Indiana Jones globe-trotting sort of way. Don't you worry, the good stuff is still relegated to discoverable text and audio logs, that as a fan goes, I just want to see that. And we're also dealing with a much larger cast than the previous entries, which I think is fully legitimately on display for the other games in the series. Don't you worry, they're still spending most of this latter runtime trying to accentuate this well, so it won't be lost in that sense. However, there are some issues I had with this Dead Space Swan song. First off, I really didn't like how hard they were trying to get me to hate Ellie's boyfriend.
Good to see you, man. I think maybe we should give you some time alone, huh?
Hey, I'm already on to you, so that's just not necessary. And it always prouded me that it wasn't a different response from the later, so don't appreciate it. I feel comes back as members of the team continue to communicate with Tom as the story progresses. He's benefiting communities and people helping him sadly and eventually die on his random upbringing, trying to predict which teammate would lie to them to what trust. And I'm wondering if I could have rather than try to witness these kinds of emotions in players. Food writing makes that process really invisible to them trying to die. My point is, when it comes to thought, you prepare for all the thought, just don't make it so obvious that you're trying to manipulate when you do it. And as far as complaints go, I did have one final issue throughout the game because Part 5 happened and the entire game was using it. It did not let any of us forget that Dead Space 3 was made with co-op multiplayer in mind, which means making co-op mode. You get a lot of interaction with people, which builds the guy's character up a bit and makes it feel like he's going through some kind of arc. But if, like me, you try to play these games solo, you get to a point where Carter starts acting like he's been through some kind of development. Despite the fact that the majority of the video, he never said a total of 6 words to the guy. So when he ends up asking Isaac about redemption and being a bad person, it comes out of left field and gives the impression that he's been going through a lot of personal growth just off screen that you can't see.
That's how what good man does.
Good man, definitely not the worst issue with the story I've ever seen, but it is a damning look into what took precedence in D3's design process. Functionality, innovation, and off-brand storytelling took a dead serious backseat to placating common gaming trends for the time. Treating heroes and itself like God, but don't let that get you down. Dead Space 3, for all intents and purposes, had a really cool story. I enjoyed seeing Isaac Clarke finally turning into the hero he's been avoiding when he played this entire series. And even though I complained about it just a second ago, Carver definitely grew on me a surprising amount. I actually interacted with him as a single player. So I don't think not impressed. Seeing Ellie return, but having her just out of reach, both realistically and relationship-wise, was a really smart way of giving the players what they want, but still using her as a motivated goal without ruining the will they won't they vibe we got from Part 2. The set-piece driven, more action-movie bend, a lot of the elements taken in this last entry can feel a little more like Uncharted than Dead Space, but I think it still fits in some way. Plus, the soundtrack did an amazing job of amplifying the emotional scenes and the overall mystery. Would I have loved to return to the more atmospheric trope that we saw in the first 2 games? Sure, but the more cinematic, orchestral approach does a great job of building and releasing tension, so color me on board with it. Look, like I've said a million times already, it is a bit of a departure, and I can totally understand diehard fans being upset at that change, but coming from a guy who's a big fan of the series, it seems to still have that Dead Space spark. The more flashy elements added here. There may be a lot of reasons to stay away from what was essentially the but I'd say the story is not one of them. Even if you've heard all the complaints and have sworn this title off for what I would call very valid reasons, at least watch a playthrough if you want me to. And trust me, the story is one area that I can say confidently survived EA's mishandling. Something I definitely can't say about the gameplay. Alright, let's crack this egg. On paper, it would seem like Driscoll's got a pretty simple job here. You just take the winning formula of Isaac Clarke needing to escape some form of Necromorph outbreak and quietly make some minute additions or changes. It seems like it needs a whole lot, but we're dealing with some odd circumstances for this release. Like I mentioned in my other videos, Dead Space 1 really took off in the sales charts, maybe surprisingly so, but Dead Space 2 made back only a small portion of the money EA invested in the project. So when it came time to release a new entry in the series, the best believe EA was really put this switch shoulder the entire time, releasing them to incorporate mechanics seen in other popular games at the time, and pushing a bigger emphasis on multiplayer with microtransactions, a scenario that should surprise no one, as it's the EA hustle we've been used to for what seems like 2 decades now. So when I go through the results of all this with a fine-tooth comb, just keep in mind you've got the literally easy for their bosses, and since their bosses were the ones footing the bill, you can blame them, or at least that seems to be the case to me. To be honest, I haven't seen a lot of direct information that points at EA as being the ones who made these changes, not Visceral themselves, but we do have a historically recognizable pattern. Precedence is good enough to work in the US court system. I feel like it's good enough for my terrible YouTube videos. And with that damning data, why don't we go over the scanned amount that has stayed the same and the ocean changes without the space First of all, a lot of the more surface level elements that don't require a lot of deep analysis to understand are all here to varying degrees. For example, you're still playing a third-person over-the-shoulder shooter with an emphasis on the movement. Progression is still handled in a very straight line sort of manner, only this time having a few portions of the game that allow for backtracking and exploration, only it's in such small amounts that it feels like an idea no one really wanted to get into. Item gathering, interactions, and weapon upgrades all pretty much work exactly as they used to, but there's only one going on under the surface. Like I alluded to, this game was a clear case of too many cooks in the kitchen, or possibly too many recipes in a single dish might be better than scripted. Elements added in as to stop the action it's the best way to take them down, and technically that's still the case here, but there's a few issues that led to this being shoved out as an optimal strategy. And to talk about that further, we're going to need to go over a few more changes that made it possible. So not only is there now a cover mechanic, but to make that worth putting in, we also have enemies with guns. And I think we can all agree that's exactly the atmosphere of horror game is shootouts between space lanes. In addition, there's some changes need to be made to existing cast of baddies to sort of balance the extreme. So what we're left with is a roster of necroforms that must be used twice as fast as even the typical bad guys in TS1 or 2. And at first, you may disagree with me more than my specific form as TS2 rock solid base action hack play is one of my biggest compliments, but well, the word poor balance comes to mind a lot. This is the campaign game faster than too much faster. Makes sense, right? Well, if these guys are closing the gap, and dismemberment is supposed to be a relatively slow process, but enemies still able to damage you with just the same armor. Also, well, your strategy is going to have to change up a bit. All the hard difficulties taking about 3 or 4 direct hits to cut off a leg or an arm, but an automatic weapon or rifle is basically serve the same purpose, but have a rate of fire indicated by a option and trusting the result to the battle. That's like this big Dead Space title, which just was not working for me, which led to the first 2 or 3 hours of the game incredibly frustrating. I kept playing like other DS games and trying to make use of the plasma cutter, but as soon as I figured out a faster firing weapon cost me to get done does the same job much more efficiently, well, the plasma cutter quickly rotated out of my mind. I did something like that. If the difficulty was a big draw for part 2, why the hell am I complaining about it in part 3? That's the issue. It's actually pretty easy. Sure, I was getting hit, but it was going on the side, but maybe the first 20 or 30 minutes of starting it up, what would that right now? I was going I was it was until the last 30 minutes of the game that I ever had the crafting even out of myself. Before that, I was regularly just throwing away people on items because they were clogging my space in my inventory for ammo. So what's the issue then? Well, it's pretty satisfying. Half of it's runtime, or at least it wasn't. I found that I kept taking these bullshit hits during the combat. And like I said, I could do this in a job. It's like this just enjoying myself. Because I was facing which this in return all I got was this terrible dive that just was dumb as hell in the Dead Space game. And on top of that, it's kind of hard to do on the fly in the PC version for some reason. Maybe my head just wasn't translated very well into a Dead Space game. You know, I had to do a lot of this. So to sum things up, I just really wasn't satisfied with the combat. Thanks for a few tweaks and moving that pretty much got I and I. But I'm not exactly shitting on the game, and there's a reason for that. It becomes incredibly fun and a few milestones get ahead, and it's then that I finally saw the appeal here. Now, to tell you this story, I do have to start from the beginning. At first, I figured out the plasma cutter just wasn't cutting it, unintended, so I went against my Dead Space instincts and used an automatic firearm for my new weapon, but I'm still lacking a lot of stopping power. So I made myself a shotgun and assumed, well, there you have it, problem solved, right? Well, once again, we're going to have to go over another edition. Dead Space, among their including some changes implemented in the universal ammunition system. This means all ammunition 5 used in all the weapons you have. So if you have several hundred rounds in it, the developers are going to have to develop more powerful weapons, and they did that so that this game's version of the BMG, or whatever its most powerful variant of the weapon is, doesn't make up your main arsenal all the time. And in that spirit, the shotgun is...
All I wanted to know was what the documents were doing in your office in the first place.
Who do you think you're talking to? I'm goddamn Nathaniel Bard. I'm the best biologist.
And remember, one of my complaints was that enemies are now much faster and more aggressive. So if I do take a shot with a shotgun and it doesn't happen to knock the enemy back,
Tyrell,
that's getting
Bard's dead. He's been shot.
Essentially, the
Shit. And the vaccine?
I'm looking.
Fire one,
Carter.
and the other
There's
one
gotta be a computer, right?
mistake. So throughout the entire time, there was some invisible countdown that was keeping me from firing the more reasonable weapon for seconds after firing the shotgun. And this also applies to changing weapons, which means firing the damn shotgun is a commitment. The game really expects you to buckle down